If you're trying to sell your home without a real estate agent, ignore the people who say that it can't be done because it absolutely can. But if you're serious, you need a real system. See, for years, homeowners hired me as their real estate agent to price their homes, prepare them for the market, and get them under contract fast. And we consistently drew bidding wars, often going under contract in the first weekend. And well, at some point, I realized something kind of important. These amazing outcomes weren't because I was somehow special, because trust me, I am not. However, the process that I built, well, that truly was. And once that clicked, it just didn't make any sense to keep all of that locked behind my commission check. So I stepped away from listing homes and I started teaching homeowners directly how to run the same process themselves while keeping more of the equity that they've spent years building. So let's talk about the roadmap. First, we're going to explore how to price your home so that buyers are competing to buy your home instead of trying to negotiate you downward. Second, this is all about home prep, what to fix, what to disclose, and what to leave alone so that we get top dollar even after the inspection results are in. And third, we're going to go over how to launch your listing in a way that spikes demand immediately instead of trickling in over a sad few months. I want you to consider this video today the Cliff's Notes version of this effort, if you're old like me and you remember those things. And if you stay to the end and you still want more, I'm going to point you to a 4-hour deep dive video where I walk through every step with downloadable calculators and scripts and forms and all the real examples you could ever want. But for right now, let's just start by uncovering the mistake that costs for sale by owner sellers more money than anything else. And this is pricing. Most sellers, they want to list high and leave room to negotiate because that feels safe. And really, that strategy should stay back in the 1950s where it belongs. Because when you overprice today in the internet age, you are shrinking your buyer pool, you're extending your days on market, and you train every buyer who does show up to expect concessions. It's training them for the exact opposite behavior you want. The data here is very consistent. Homes that sit longer always sell for less. So here's the counterintuitive move that a lot of people aren't talking about. You need to price slightly below the obvious market value of your closest comparable sales. I'm talking like 1 or 2% under what homes usually sell for in your area, not fire sale prices. Because when you're figuring out what those comparable sale costs are, you're going to learn so much. And I want you to focus entirely on the actually closed sales, because closed sales are the only numbers that matter, because that's where a check was actually written. So the pending sales out there and the active listings, we just kind of think about those as wishes that haven't been granted yet. So look back like 90 to 120 days and pull every closed sale in your area. And from there, I want you to identify, 3 to 5 homes most similar to yours in size and condition and location. And I want you to then adjust for meaningful differences. Like perhaps if one of them has an extra bathroom or a clearly dated kitchen, that's going to definitely affect their market value. And now once you found that cluster, you position your price just under it. And that is strategic positioning at its finest, because now you're casting a wider net. You're going to drive more showings and more traffic in the first weekend. And this kind of environment creates the sort of buyer competition that pushes the final price above your asking number, even your initial thoughts on what you wanted. Now, since I don't have a crystal ball, and neither do you, last I checked, there's no precise way of knowing exactly how much the house is going to sell for. So everything we do has to be based on data and consumer behavior. So here's your diagnostic. If you hit the market and you get a bunch of activity online but no showings, you've probably missed the pricing by over 10%. Now, if you get a lot of showings but nobody makes an offer, well, now you're probably within about 5%, but you're still off. Here's the thing. Don't wait 3 weeks hoping for some rich fool to stumble upon your listing. Adjust early and aggressively while you still have leverage. You do not want to gain the reputation as the house that didn't sell. Now, let's talk about repairs, because this is another place where sellers often waste a ton of money or actually just leave it sitting on the table. The natural instinct here, it seems, is to fix everything or fix nothing. Both are wrong, though. I want you to think of the repairs that come in 3 buckets. So bucket 1 are handyman level items that you or a handyman could knock out in a weekend. Think of these like sticky doorknobs or missing outlet covers or a running toilet, maybe even weather stripping gaps. These cost almost nothing to repair, but they scream neglect when left undone, because your buyers are going to wonder, well, hey, If they didn't handle this little easy stuff, they probably didn't handle the big stuff either. Bucket two is contractor level work, and this affects safety or function or even lender approval. I want you to think of these as roof leaks or an HVAC that won't heat or cool, GFCIs missing in wet areas, and maybe even some structural concerns that make an inspector nervous. If something in bucket two fails, many lenders won't even approve the buyer's loan, which means the deal dies. So fix it or price for it, but definitely do not ignore it. In bucket three, these are the end of life items that you disclose and price into the deal rather than repair. This might be a 20-year-old roof with a couple of useful years left, or original windows, or carpet that's seen better days. Buyers, they sort of expect a credit or an adjustment for these, but don't try to pretend that these flaws don't exist, because buyers have been trained by shopping online these days to comparison shop your home against all the others. So just be honest, be open, and accommodate the flaws in your price. Now here is where most for sale by owners lose money without even knowing they did it. Every buyer walking through your home is doing silent math in their head. They're calculating risk. And when they can't verify something with hard numbers, they often won't feel comfortable enough to ask questions. They're afraid of looking silly. So they just subtract dollars from the value of your house in their head. I call this the doubt tax. It's the invisible penalty that buyers price in when they sense uncertainty. Now, the way you eliminate it is with documentation. I recommend building a truth binder. This is something that I've used in the past, and it is so handy. It's a folder that sits on your kitchen counter during showings and during open houses with your pre-listing inspection report, the repair receipts, the permits from any work you've had done, for example, like HVAC and roof service records, and your property disclosure form. So when a buyer flips through that and they see organized, verified information, the doubt tax diminishes if it doesn't disappear altogether. They stop guessing about what's wrong with the house and they start figuring out, okay, how do I put a deal together to win this thing? Also, there's some things that are paperwork and contract related that a lot of homeowners don't even realize. Like, for example, if your home is built before 1978, you are legally required to provide a lead-based paint disclosure. If you have a septic system, some states actually require a recent inspection before closing. And missing paperwork in these areas can derail the deal at the worst possible moment, like well into the closing. And this is why you should never, ever attempt to DIY the legal side of selling your home. Always work with a licensed real estate attorney or a title company, whatever is the preferred method in your state, because they handle closings regularly, all right? They're going to keep you honest and legally protected. And now's the fun part. We're going to launch. The goal here is to compress viewers into a tight window so that these buyers, they feel actual urgency and they see the social proof of the popularity of your home. Now, before you go live, I want you to invite your neighbors over to an exclusive neighborhood-only going-away party/open house. You're going to tell them that you're moving and you would love your advice on how to make your home more attractive to buyers, because believe it or not, the people staying behind, well, they have an even greater interest in finding a wonderful buyer for your home than you do, because they have to live with them. And furthermore, they want to see you get the highest price possible for your home, so maybe their property values will go up as well. They definitely don't want to take a hit from you having a fire sale. The plan is to list your home on all of the major portals that Thursday morning to alert buyers that there's this great new home available for their weekend shopping trips. And during showings, make sure you set specific time blocks where you're available. And I always tell people just Wednesday evenings between 5 and 7. And this allows you to still live in the house, which is always a bonus, but without having to keep it constantly maintained like some museum showroom. So if you make it available for just a short window, one day a week, it raises the exclusivity of the listing. And if you're worried about people wanting to see the home but not being able to make that time commitment that you've chosen, do not sweat it. People who are serious enough to make a 6-figure investment are going to jump through that minor of a hoop to come see it. I'm telling you. Now, the goal is not just to keep your sanity, though, even though only having your home ready for showings one day a week is going to help. But I want to increase overlapping showings because I want every visitor to come see your home to sense that they're not the only interested party. And that awareness, it changes consumer behavior. A buyer who thinks they're alone and has all day to make their choice, they're going to lowball you. But a buyer who saw 3 other cars in the driveway, you're going to probably write a much more competitive and cleaner offer. And prior to showings, it's important you stage the house as if your photographer was coming back for round 2. Turn on every light, angle the blind so natural light floods the place, and remove your personal documents and valuables. When offers come in, remember that the highest number, it's not always the best deal. A buyer offering $5,000 less with no contingencies often puts more money in your pocket than the highest bidder with a laundry list of demands, because you're going to have less carrying costs, less opportunity costs, and less risk of failure. All that means is that it's important to score each offer on price, financing strength, appraisal gap coverage, inspection terms, timeline, and concessions. There's a lot that goes into it. Make your decision based on what you're actually going to net in your pocket, bottom line at the end of the deal, not the number at the top of the page. Now, if you find yourself in a position where you have to counter, establish time limits and boundaries. Something like, yeah, so if you guys can commit to closing in 30 days with the inspection contingency waived, yeah, we have a deal at this price until noon tomorrow. And then you just stop, because silence after a clean counter, it might feel slightly uncomfortable for you, but it is way worse for the person on the other side. The first person to speak after a counter is usually the one that gives up the leverage. And make sure everything happens in writing, because verbal agreements and real estate are just expensive mistakes waiting to happen. For closing, you're going to work with your real estate attorney or the title company that you selected at the beginning. They're going to handle the title search, prepare the documents, and ensure a clean transfer of ownership. And then they're going to issue something very important called title insurance. Do not skip this. This is how you protect yourself from surprises that could haunt you long after the sale. So here's your action list for tonight if you're serious. I want you to start gathering documents for your truth binder. Call a few building inspectors in the area and ask if they're open to doing a free re-inspection after you knock out some of the items on the punch list that they gave you. Pull your comparable sales data and get comfortable with how pricing works in your area, and then block out your launch calendar with the Thursday go live and a neighborhood get together. And I know this is like a massively big deal that we just compressed into a small video. So if any of this felt rushed, or if you wanted the actual scripts or templates and walkthroughs that I use, I did create a 4-hour video course that covers every step in detail. So I put that right here for you. Go ahead and click on that right now, and it'll be the deep dive that you need. But whether you start tonight or watch that big video first, I just want you to know that you can do this. You can sell fast. You can sell for a strong price, and you do not have to pay massive real estate agent commissions in order to do it, because this system works. And now it's yours. Good luck.